Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Hey everybody, it is Tuesday, May 7th. Welcome to J is for Justice. Welcome in everybody. Thank you moderators for being here. I am J is for Justice and I have bad allergies. I'm on day number 3 of headaches. So bear with me. We're here though. Welcome everyone. I saw a few people saying they were new. Kelly, welcome. Verna Smith, I hate these long ass intros.
Everybody does that. It's okay.
That intro was literally 2 minutes long. Stop the drama. Leave the drama for your mama, Verna. It wasn't that long. So before we get into today's live, I have some breaking news from 30 minutes ago from Nick Barris. It's allergies, guys. So if I excuse my coughing and clearing my throat. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Just Say No. Hi, Janine. I hope you're having a good day too. Melissa B, you as well. This is a live chat reminder as well. All right. And it looks like we are just steps away from spinning the wheel on Friday. Hey, I don't give a F. Well, the intro wasn't that long. That was a little dramatic, in my opinion. All right, let's see what Nick Barris has to say 30 minutes ago, okay? Nick Barris says, 42 minutes ago, photograph not Sebastian Rogers. I now have official confirmation. The photograph taken of a teen at a visitor center in North Carolina last Saturday is not Sebastian Rogers. The 15-year-old autistic boy disappeared from his Hendersonville, Tennessee home more than 2 months ago. The boy in the photograph very much resembled Sebastian, but it was not him. Here is the statement just made to me by Sumner County, Tennessee Chief Deputy Eric Craddock. Eric says, we would like to provide an important update regarding the recent photographs circulated in connection with the search for Sebastian Rogers. We understand the gravity of the situation and the concerns it has raised. Our collaborated efforts with law enforcement continue unabated as we remain committed to finding Sebastian. We appreciate your cooperation and support in disseminating this update to the public. This is the first official statement issued by authorities on the photo, which has generated so much attention. Apparently, just a look-alike. So how did they reach this conclusion? Authorities using security video from the visitor center were able to track the boy in the photo and his family. They made contact and determined it was not Sebastian. I certainly understand why the citizens snapped the photo and authorities took it seriously. They investigate all potential leads. Hopefully more tips will continue to be called into 1-800-TBI-FIND. With that in mind, authorities say if you see something or take a photo or have new information on the case, please call it in immediately. The longer you wait, the more difficult it is to track down the lead. Share. So officially, this is not Sebastian. So that's that. Now, I have another story to share with you before we get into Nina. A human leg was found in Jackson, on the outskirts of Jackson, Mississippi, on Sunday. Some kids that were fishing. You'll hear.
News starts now with breaking news.
We begin with breaking news out of Rankin County, where more human remains have been found in a lake. 3 on your side's Morgan Harris is live in Flowood, where officials continue their search. Morgan, what's the latest on this investigation?
Hey Ashley, yes, I'm here at the Old Primos Lake right off of Mangum Drive, and earlier today the Flowood Police Department did find more human remains in this lake behind me. Now the department wrapped up the day's investigation about an hour ago. Right now there are still more questions about the remains than there are answers. This all started last night around 7:15 when the department got a call from a group of kids fishing after one of them snagged a human leg. This area is considered city property and no trespassing signs are up. The investigation continued this morning and police have found more remains, but there's still a lot we don't know. They haven't confirmed whether the bones belong to a man or woman or who the person may be. The department says they are exploring all avenues in this case, including, of course, whether or not foul play was involved. Now, we were told to expect more information from the department very soon. The coroner's office did take the remaining remains to the coroner's office for further investigation. Now, we, of course, will continue to follow this developing story, and we'll bring you the latest on air and online at WLBT.com. For now, I'm live from Flowood. Morgan Harris, 3 on your side.
I don't smoke in front of the family.
Sorry. This is roughly a couple hours south of the Yogi Bear campground. I'm sorry. So what they said in this other article is that the leg still had a sock attached to it. But we don't know if that was a boy, a girl, a kid, an adult. We don't know. We just know that it still had a sock attached to it and that it was badly decomposed. And then they found more remains yesterday.
WLBT News starts now with breaking news.
We begin with breaking news out of Rankin County, where more human remains have been found in a lake.
That was the same one.
Your side's Morgan Harris is live in Flowood, where officials continue their...
What's this? Missing teen found dead. Is that the same story?
You don't need to pay a single penny for a useless doorbell camera subscription. Introducing Camtrix, the revolutionary affordable...
What is this all about? Jayville? I don't like Jayville Road. This must be a different story. I don't know what that's all about. Jesus. It's even in Newsweek magazine. This is the one I read. I'll read it to you guys. A human leg was found in a small lake in Mississippi after a group of kids were fishing on Sunday. According to local news station WLBT, Flowood Police Chief Eric Zetterholm said that a group of kids were fishing at Primos Lake in Rankin County, Mississippi, when one of the kids' lure snagged a human leg that had a sock on it. One of the kids pulled in the leg. Police were immediately called as the Rankin County coroner arrived at the location. According to police, the leg was taken to the medical examiner's office to start a DNA process. Zetterholm added that the leg was mostly bone, suggesting it had been in the water for a while. A while. That doesn't really give us much information. According to the local news, police said more bones were found in the lake on Monday and that the search continues for more remains. It's unclear what other human remains were found. While the area of the lake is the location of an old mine, it's an old mine. According to WLBT, the area is restricted with no trespassing signs clearly displayed. Newsweek has reached out to the Flowood Police Department via email for comment. So it's called what lake? Primos Lake. Let's see how far that is from the Yogi Bear. Primos Lake, Rankin County. Why can't I find Primos Lake? Hold on. All I'm getting is this damn cafe. Well, let's just look up the county. Or Flowood. We'll just look up Flowood. Flowood, Mississippi. See, it's just outside of Jackson. So we're going to do Flowood to Horn Lake, Mississippi. By car, it is 2 hours and 56 minutes. So there's Memphis up here, and then Flowood, where those parts were found, is down here. I know, Horn Lake. Horn Lake. But that's where Yogi Bear is Horn Lake. So really, it's a straight shot down I-55 all the way to Flowood. No, it's really not that far when you think about it. Mm-mm. It's the opposite way to their house. See, their house is up here. See Nashville? They're up here. He was searching in Jackson? Was he really? Was he really, women? Holy. I wonder what led him there. Where's his job? Right there in Memphis. Here, let me zoom in. His job's right here. There's Memphis. Here's Horn Lake. So he's staying really close to work, but he's just on the other side of the state line. Why? I don't know. Why wouldn't he stay at a campsite in Tennessee? Hey, Mike. So really, it's a straight shot down I-55, and then you go off here. And it's found somewhere around, I don't know exactly where, but there's the Pearl River. It's an old mine, they said. Hey, Jess. Thanks for listening at work, babe. Does anyone know where Chris Proudfoot's new work is, though? It is very disturbing. No matter who it is, it's a body with a leg on it. You know what I'm saying? Seth must be devastated, yeah. It's just weird that they were on last night. Literally, we watched News Nation. I can't play it because they sue me, but they were on last night basically saying they still thought it was him. But I've always thought that Sebastian could be near water. Just because of how Chris has said shit. Oh, man, I know it's disturbing. We'll keep our eyes on these latest updates, guys. I'll update you if I hear anything. But let's start Nina's interview. And then let's see if we pick up on anything we maybe didn't pick up on before. Or maybe something that is disturbing now that didn't really stand out to us. Right, where's his new job, you know? They didn't say, they just said part of a leg with a sock. Seth and Tony are on Nancy Grace at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to try to watch it in Discord. So if you're in Discord, there's an event up for that. Okay? So let's start Nina's interview and let's get into this. I know, guys. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I know it's not what we wanted to hear. I know a lot of people had hope that was Sebastian, especially Seth. I know. Trevor is now on Substack. Yes, he is. And Trevor Lee did a nice thing in Eastern Tennessee on Saturday. He had a missing person event where he handed out flyers and all sorts of things for 4 missing people in Tennessee. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get into Nina. Thank you guys for being here. I will boost this if we need more audio too.
Like I said, my name is Nina. I live here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I have 3 amazing children. I met Christopher back when I was 35 years old. I met him on a dating website. Don't know what I was doing there, I guess. I wish I could take it back. I started talking to him. He was stationed out in San Diego, and we started talking back and forth. Wanted to get to know him a little bit more. I thought he was a great person in the beginning. But everybody is always perfect in the beginning, right? We fail to see the red flags, and we fail to notice things that we should in the beginning. So he made a couple of trips out here, asked me to marry him, and I made the mistake by saying I do. So we got married. Eventually, we moved to San Diego. I wasn't really ever prepared to move away again from New Mexico. I had went through a divorce a couple years prior to meeting Christopher. And my first husband was military as well, but I was married to him for 9.5 to 10 years, almost 10 years. We made it. He's the father of my other 2 children.
I have to wonder what the natural dad that she was with, the other guy that was in the military, just because she said that, you know, she was able to move her 2 kids across the country. And a lot of dads wouldn't, you know, involved dads wouldn't want that to happen, right? They'd be like, no, I don't want my kids across the country.
And I told him that, you know, I was remarrying and we were moving to San Diego. And he wasn't really for it. He was kind of against it due to the fact that he was stationed out at Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso, Texas. And that's about like 3.5 hours from Albuquerque. So he was, you know, he would always see his kids like every weekend. And he's like, how am I going to see my kids? And I said, well, we'll figure it out. So we packed up after we said I do. I don't remember the exact date when I got married to Christopher, and maybe that's a good thing. We moved into the naval housing out there, and my son, Noah, was 3 at the time, and my oldest was about 7 years old. And she was telling me 7. So I thought everything was great in the beginning. I mean, everything's always perfect, like I said. And then I started seeing bits and pieces of how Christopher really was. I was a stay-at-home wife. Due to my son being so young, I wanted to, you know, enjoy those years with him. Then my daughter went to school right down the street. So I was home every single day. And it just started seeing like Christopher change like night and day. It was awkward. I felt really uncomfortable. After a while, we would argue about just the smallest things. And a lot of it also had to do with how he disciplined my children. I'm very protective over my kids. And I didn't want somebody else to discipline my children. I didn't want him talking ugly to them or hurting their feelings. And I remember one point in time where Christopher spanked my son really hard, and I got very upset with him, and I said, you can't do that to my son. I said, he's 3, he's a baby still. Like, you can't just do whatever you want. I mean, and he got upset, and he's like, well, you know, he needs to learn. He needs to man up. He's a man. I said, he's 3. He's 3. And as time went on, like, I could see him getting more aggressive and more aggressive. And I stood up for my kids all the time. I didn't like how he talked to them, how he wanted them to stand in the corner all the time. And I didn't like that. So,
All right, let's unpack this and picture Sebastian being in this situation. Okay. She had a 3-year-old that needed to man up in Chris's eyes. We have special needs Sebastian. Imagine how Sebastian could never do anything right.
I stayed a little bit longer. I ended up eventually getting pregnant with Faith. And it was probably, I want to say,
Yeah, I can.
maybe early September that I found out that I was pregnant with Faith. And I remember telling him that I was pregnant, and he wasn't happy about it. So I called my parents back.
Okay, so he wasn't happy about her getting pregnant with Faith, but he has to have her. This is what I was saying yesterday. I think old Ma Proudfoot or old Ma Bowersocks is the one that has to have her. And Chris just can't lose. He can't let Nina just go on her way and be happy. No, he can't just let the little girl go on and be raised by Nina and her new husband in a regular, normal life. Nope. Old Ma Bowersocks and Chris Proudfoot's got to try to get Faith for their own personal greed and reasons. He is another Adam Montgomery. He doesn't give a F about anybody other than mama.
Home here in Albuquerque, and I told them the situation. And I said, well, Christopher wants me to get an abortion with Faith. And my parents said no.
Y'all, did you hear that? I didn't hear that before. Chris wanted her to have an abortion with Faith. And he's going through all of this garbage for his fucking pride. The Proudfoot pride. Wow. Did you ever think you'd see a man that makes Don Wells look like Father of the Year? No, I didn't. I didn't. I never thought that I'd see someone worse. Oh, this is really gross.
You're not. And I said, I'm not. So I know he was very upset about me keeping Faith at that point in time. So I came home. My grandma had gotten very sick, and I decided to come home. And after that, I just kind of stayed here in New Mexico, because at that time we weren't getting along, and we were just like newlyweds, and that should have never happened. But I saw things, like I said, that were just it wasn't right about him. So I moved home, and I did my whole pregnancy by myself. And so I finally, my friends back there in California, my neighbors right across the street, were actually calling me. I had one good friend, which is still a really good friend of mine to this day. She called me and said, Nina, Christopher's getting rid of your furniture and getting rid of your stuff. And I was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, like he's giving away like your little, your home decor stuff. Like he's giving away beds. And I was like,
Wait a minute. Chris was giving away beds? Was he planning to do something bad to her? Asking for a friend?
no way. So this was about Easter time. So I had went out there. I made a special trip. I asked my mom to go with me, and Isabella and Noah, they went with me, and I was still pregnant with Faith at the time. So we made it. I didn't tell him that we were going out there. So I kind of, wanted to see myself, because the neighbor also informed me that there was people at the house that shouldn't have been there. So I guess I kind of wanted to sneak up on him and see what he was doing, right? And we pulled up into the driveway, into the driveway, and he was coming out the front door with a bed that he was giving to the neighbor, which was my son's bed. And the look on his face was like a deer in headlights. And he dropped the bed right there in the front yard, went back in the front door, slammed the door and locked it on my kids. And my mom told me at that point, she said, I can't believe he's doing this. Like, what is he doing? So I go in and I unlock the door and I said, what are you doing? I said, are you giving away my stuff? And he had nothing to say. So he brought the bed back in because I knew that's what he was doing. And, the neighbor across the street, like I said, told me. So we stayed there. It was super.
The neighbor across the street told her. So that means that the neighbor across the street probably didn't like Chris either. And now I'm starting to believe the neighbor's story that heard all these things going on, because I don't think Chris has any qualms about keeping it private, so to speak.
Uncomfortable. My mom felt the tension between the both of us. My children felt it as well. And at the time, Faith started moving. Like I could start, I felt her moving around in my stomach. And I told Christopher, I said, look, I said, put your hand on my stomach. I said, can you feel her move? He said, no. When you're pregnant, you always think that your spouse is going to be super supportive and be super excited that you're pregnant and bringing a life into this world for him, right? But I didn't get that. I didn't get that support that I needed.
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
We had a conversation my mom brought up between Christopher, myself, and her. And she had said, do you not want Faith? Like, do you not want this baby? And Christopher stated to my mom, he wasn't happy. And he said, what if one of them dies? What if Faith dies or Nina dies on the table or when she's having this baby? Like,
what the fuck? Who says that? Whoa. So he had a conversation with Nina and her mom talked about, why are you doing this? Whatever. He talked about her or the baby dying in labor.
My mom said, don't talk like that. Like, why are you talking like that? They're still here. So we left again after a couple of days. We came home to Albuquerque. And still, I tried working it out where we were at, but it just wasn't working. I wanted out. And I had Faith on my own.
All by herself. She had Faith by herself, and this motherfucker's trying to get custody. He wanted her to abort the baby. She had to go through labor by herself. And now this motherfucker's trying to get custody.
Christopher called the hospital. I told him on June 1st that I got admitted into the hospital. And Faith arrived at June 2nd, about 3 or 4 in the morning. And he kept calling the hospital and saying that my wife is in labor. She's there.
Oh my God.
But Christopher was just so rude and hateful and he wasn't even there. So then he arrived a couple days later after I had Faith. And he was, the doctors and the nurses there were on high alert due to the fact that they heard Christopher over the phone on how he was being disrespectful to the nurses that were on call that night.
Okay, so it's important that we've heard that Katie cheated on Seth with Chris, and Nina was cheated on. She was pregnant with Faith when Chris hooked up with a married Katie.
I was waiting to have her, and I asked that they not give him any more information. So he arrived. I had Faith. He arrived a couple days later, like I said. And you could just tell the look on his face, like he wasn't happy at all. Like,
I can imagine.
Didn't say, hey, you did a good job. Didn't say, I'm so happy that you brought my daughter into this world, like nothing. And I remember my sister was holding Faith, and she had to ask Chris, do you want to hold her? He said, I guess.
I guess.
So she handed her over to Chris. And he stayed there with me for a couple more days because I had a C-section.
Oh my God, she had to go through a C-section. Exactly, Emilio. Jay, if this is correct, he was cruel to his own child. What can we expect with those that are not his flesh and blood?
On one of the occasions, I can't recall what was happening, but he was raising his voice, and he was talking to me very disrespectful in front of one of the nurses. And she had told him, look, she just brought life into this world. She just got major surgery, and you're yelling at her.
Oh my God.
And I have a problem with that. She said, if you continue to do this, I'm going to have to tell social services to come down here. And I'm also going to have to ask you to leave the hospital.
I have chills.
And not return.
I have chills.
So at that point in time, he kind of calmed down after he heard that. But unfortunately, that didn't last very long. He continued to do that. So social services at the hospital was told to come down. And he was pretty much, she said, you can't do that here. And she was really concerned for my well-being at the time, and also Faith's, because, here is Christopher, dictating and telling me what I can and can't do, and telling the nurses to do their job correctly and all these other things, and raising his voice at me. And, so they had to step in. And so she said, this is it. Like, you're going to have to leave the premises. And, and he got a little upset, and he's like, no, I'm going to change. I'm going to be good. So, they said, okay, but we're watching you. We're watching you. So after that, we had left. They discharged all of us from the hospital, and he didn't want to stay at my parents' house because my mom and dad live in a trailer, and he doesn't like that. It's a house, right? Still.
He wouldn't stay at her parents' house because they live in a trailer. Okay. This guy, I can't. Whoever said he would fight with himself in an empty house because he didn't like the color of the walls is spot on. Thank you, Val.
So he rented a room at Kirtland Air Force Base, and they have like lodging there, which is like a house, old base housing, and we ended up getting one of those. And we stayed there for a while. I remember one night in particular where we all had went out and got something to eat to bring it back to the room. I had went into the restroom, I believe that's where I was at, and Faith was in her car seat, and my oldest daughter was in the living room with my son and Christopher. Well, anyways, I guess I wasn't moving fast enough for Christopher, but the baby started crying. Faith started crying. And
because babies cry, right?
She's crying, and I'm trying to get to her as fast as I can. And when she was in the car seat, my oldest daughter at the time witnessed this with my 3-year-old son. When she was in the car seat, he ended up hitting the car seat against the wall. And he's getting upset.
I knew I heard that. There's a coffee table, but there's also a wall. Faith was strapped into the car seat, and he hit the car seat against the wall with her in it.
She's crying, and I'm trying to get to her as fast as I can. And when she was in the car seat,
100%.
my oldest daughter at the time witnessed this with my 3-year-old son. When she was in the car seat, he ended up hitting the car seat against the wall. And he's getting upset because she's crying. And then when she was in her car seat, there was a coffee table right there. And he ended up tossing her on the coffee table with the car seat because he was so irate that she was crying. And I said, hey, what's your problem? I said, what are you doing? Like, she's a baby. She's going to cry. I wish I would have never met him. I'm sorry. I should have left a long time ago. Because no children ever deserve this. My kids didn't. So he left again to San Diego. A couple days went by. Then all of a sudden he's like, well, why don't you move to Hendersonville?
Oh, yay.
And I was like,
could I?
Why though? In my head, and I knew it was a bad idea. I just knew it. I knew it because our marriage was on the rocks. I wasn't happy.
And now she's
he wasn't
isolated.
a good father figure to my children. I don't know why I said yes.
Stuck.
Well, anyway,
he flung her right into this relationship.
So let me back up. So before he left back to San Diego, Faith ended up going back into the NICU. She ended up getting jaundice, and she went back to the NICU. So she was in the NICU, I want to say, for a week to a week and a half. And that was when Kathy, Chris's mother, came out, flew down with her brother, Duran Guy, or they call him Big D. They came down, and he was in the NICU. And that was when I felt like a plan was made because like I said, our marriages it was on the rocks. And one of my neighbors had told me in San Diego, they had warned me, they had said, Nina, be careful because Christopher is coming up with a plan with his mother.
Here we go.
And they're planning on taking the baby away from you. And I was like, what? Like, thinking to myself, it can't be true from somebody that's supposed to love you, right? Like somebody that you're supposed to share your life with. Like, why would he want to take the baby away from me? And she warned me. But I was like, no, why would they do that?
Right.
So then after Faith got out of the NICU, we were no longer staying in base housing. We were staying at one of the NBC suites down here. Then his mom came up with an idea. She goes, well, since you guys, we'll be moving to Hendersonville. And I was like, I felt like, okay, well, maybe. And he's like, well, you'll get help. You're going to get help from my family. And, but I was already getting help here from my parents, with my other 2 children that they helped me raise. So that I went along with it. Like I said earlier, even though I knew it was wrong to go, I still went hoping that my marriage would work out. So she ended up taking Faith, although I was against it. Kathy Bowers-Hawks and her brother, Duran, ended up taking Faith. And my mom and dad were like, my mom started crying and she goes, why are you letting them take the baby? And I said, because Christopher said that it's going to be too hard for her to travel, to travel. And I'm sorry. They went back. So Kathy and Big D went back to Tennessee. So 2 weeks later, about 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks later, Kathy ended up coming back by herself. I do apologize. She came back by herself to pick up Faith. She was here in Albuquerque for one night. And I was, even though I was against it, I let her go with Kathy.
Okay. Old Ma Bowersox traveled to New Mexico to get Faith. These people will go to no length. I mean, there's no lengths they'll not go to. Thank you, Poco Poco. Emilio, thank you for your super chat. Sebastian might have opened the doors for people to see what is allegedly going on, and other children and women are safe from this. Yeah. Sebastian definitely shed light and saved his sister Faith. I don't think that Chris is going to get anything now. He's really exposed himself, which is good for Faith, right? Thank you, Emilio, for your super chat. Right, and who's Big D? Is he getting paid? The big dum-dum? CP should be arrested on conspiracy charges alone. I agree. They remind me of Roberta and Brian Laundrie, honestly.
Because Christopher said it was going to be too hard to travel with her being a new baby. So he came out from San Diego, rented a U-Haul, packed all our stuff, and we pretty much left. And that's how I ended up in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Thank you, Linda Whitaker.
That's when...
No, Big D, his name starts with a D. What's his name? I don't want to say the wrong name. Is it Dominic? But they call him Big D. It's, I believe, Kathy Bowersock's brother. Mama Twinkle Toes' brother. Uh-huh. Because the caller yesterday, Matt, said that Bowersox, Granddaddy Bowersox, is the type of guy that would pay someone to slash your tires. Oh, is it Duran? Duran is Big D. That's old Ma's brother, I believe. So that would be Chris's uncle? Lake Superior girl. Does anyone know if Seth is originally from Tennessee? I don't think so. I think he's from Texas. I know. Can you imagine, Bridget, taking that baby away from her mom and placing with old Ma Bowersox? And you know what? If you remember the Patrick Frazee case, remember old Ma Frazee? Sheila Frazee, she was just like this. They wanted to take that baby away from Kelsey Barrett. And he got rid of Kelsey Barrett and thought they were going to just live happy with that baby girl. It's sick. If you don't know the Patrick Frazee case, look up Kelsey Barrett. Kelsey Barrett disappeared on Thanksgiving. Her ex-fiance is in prison.
My whole life changed. That's when my nightmare happened. We lived with his mother and his stepfather, Terry, for about a good month because our apartment wasn't going to be ready until the end of August. About the end of August. So it was really uncomfortable living there. You know, Terry and Kathy would always bicker at each other, and she'd be bickering with Christopher. And, you know, my kids were a problem, an issue. It was always something. I felt really uncomfortable, and I wanted to come home. I just wanted to come home to everything that I knew. I wanted my mom and my dad, even though I was a grown woman. I needed that.
Okay. Let's think about Katie in this situation. Chris was married to Nina, and he knew that Nina had a strong family support safety net because when she wanted to leave, she could go to her family. Katie doesn't have that. Half her family can't even be around children because they're registered sex offenders. And I'm not saying I feel bad for Katie. I'm just saying, think about the situation and how Nina felt. And then think about like Katie being in that situation. Like, it's almost like he found someone who he knew could not run away. That if he got them where he wanted them, they wouldn't have an out. They wouldn't have that family to fall back on. Mm-hmm. It's the 9th, Thursday.
So
Katie's got nowhere to go.
we all had to get along, tried to for the most part, but it was just an awkward situation. I always felt like we were the outcast. Never felt accepted by the Proudfoots or the Bowersocks. On one occasion, Christopher was cutting my oldest daughter's nails, and she didn't want her nails cut. And Christopher, grabbed a hold of her hand, and she pulled her hand away. And my daughter at the time had braces. He backhand Isabel in the face and busted her whole lip open. I should have left, but I didn't. And I was like, oh my God, like I can't be here. I don't want to be here anymore. So I would come up with every excuse just to come home, but yet, I couldn't come home. So finally we went and we moved into the apartment. And a phone call, like as soon as Christopher was leaving, he settled us in, got a storage unit of what couldn't fit in the apartment. He got everything ready, all right, him and his family. As soon as he knew that we were comfortable, he left back to San Diego. But the night prior to him leaving, he had got a phone call or text message that night, and it said something like, hey baby, or around something like that, saying that when is your flight coming in?
Hey baby, when is your flight coming in? Nina was financially dependent. Katie is not. Katie is emotionally dependent.
And I was like, what? Like, who's texting him? So I did confront him. And like he said on one of the podcasts is that I did slap him. Yes, I did slap him across the face because
he was cheating.
Who's he talking to at this time? And saying, and he could say that she was.
It was Katie.
Lesbian, up and down. But at this point in time, I didn't know what to believe. And I was like, okay. So then after that following day, he finally left. His mother came to pick him up to take him to the airport.
His mother.
And he went back to San Diego. And I was left in Hendersonville with 3 children and pretty much no help from anybody. So I found a job. I had a job, and Kathy helped once in a while. And I needed to find a babysitter. So his biological father, Michael, and his stepmother, Linda, at that point in time, offered their services and said that, they can take care of my 2 older children. And Kathy didn't want Faith going over to Michael's house.
Oh my God. Do you hear this shit? Okay. So Kathy and Terry Bowersocks, that's mom and stepdad. And then Michael Proudfoot and his wife, that's Chris's dad. So Kathy didn't want the granddaughter going to Chris's dad's house. Old Ma Bowersocks thought that she could tell Nina where Faith could go and if she could go visit her other grandparents. She said, no, they can't go visit. She can't go visit. So the kids would have to be split up. This is why I'm saying that Bauer Sox didn't give a fuck about Sebastian. Okay? They didn't give a fuck. But let me tell you something. Michael is one of them that I texted. I tried to get these people to come on and talk. Michael told me, nah. That's what he told me. I said, please, as Sebastian's step-grandfather, will you please at least make a statement? He said, nah. Leave me alone.
So she took care of her. And at that point in time, Christopher, we were still communicating. And like I said, our relationship, our marriage was on the rocks. So my oldest daughter had gotten sick and she has upper respiratory issues. So I took her to the emergency room in Hendersonville. And that's when Hendersonville transferred her to Vanderbilt. Is that what I believe that hospital's name is? And I was kind of frantic because I was like, well, what am I going to do with my 3-year-old son and with the baby? Like, who's going to help me? So I was, I called Chris and I told him, I said, hey, can your mom watch, Faith, or can somebody help me? Everybody was so quick to help me at that point in time. So Faith stayed with Kathy and Noah Bryce went with his sister, Melissa.
Oh my God.
And I went with my oldest daughter. We got transported downtown. And so we stayed there. I can't recall how many days we were there. And Christopher I'd check on the kids, see how they were doing. And
is Guy her maiden name? Who? Old Mama Socks? I'm not sure. She works for a guy. She works for Danny Guy. I think that's her boss, if I'm not mistaken.
That point in time, I was like, okay, well, we got discharged, telling everybody, okay, you can bring Noah back, and telling Kathy, okay, I'm going to be home so you can bring Faith back. Thinking that my children were going to come home to me. I get back to the apartment complex and I pulled into the parking lot and I see Melissa just pulled in right next to me. It seems like they were already there waiting for me to get there. And then she said, I can't stay. I would love to stay, but I can't stay because I don't know what they were doing. And she just, my son gets out of her van. And then we walk inside and I was waiting, for Faith to get there. And we weren't there but less than maybe 5 minutes. And I hear a knock at the door. And I was like, oh, great, Faith is home. And it was Kathy's friend, Patty, that's an attorney. And she said, called me by my real name, Gomez? And I was like, yeah. And she said, you've been served. She said, you have a protection order against you. You can't see Faith. And Chris is filing for divorce. And I was like, what? So then I go back, and thinking like my heart just drops. Like, what? Like, is this a dream? Like, this can't be happening to me. Like, this cannot be happening to me right now. So then I get on the phone and I try calling Chris and he didn't answer. And then I was like, rushing around and I get my kids in the truck and I go to the Gallatin police department and
Now, mind you, Kathy already had Faith. She only had her own 2 children. Yes, the family attorney friend is Patty. Mm-hmm. Listen to this. Now she goes down to the Gallatin Police Department.
I, was ringing the call button.
Yes, he
does. And finally 30 minutes later, somebody shows up and I told them what happened and I showed them the paper and they said, yep, we can't help you.
Wow.
all I can think about is my baby. Like, how am I going to get my baby back? Like, why is this happening to me?
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. This is crazy. Welcome, Erica.
So I go to Kathy's house and I knock on the door. And I remember I had Christopher's stepmom, Linda, on the phone with me. She was on speakerphone and I told her what was going on. Little did I know everybody was in on this. And Terry answered the door, which is Chris's stepfather. And he told me that I need to get off of his fucking property.
Oh my God.
And here little Noah who's
That's Terry Bowersocks. He told her to get off of his fucking property. Oh, I think not only will she get full custody, I think he might be charged criminally with something. I mean, making false reports, kidnapping. I mean, this is kidnapping. This is custody interference. This is criminal. Wow. And the fact that she got Faith back says to me there could be a case. There could be a criminal case being investigated with this. This was concocted. If Melissa Proudfoot said, run her over, that's illegal. You can't do that. This bitch said, run them over. Listen.
all I can think about is my baby. Like, how am I going to get my baby back? Like, why is this happening to me? So I go to Kathy's house and I knock on the door.
Mm.
And I remember I had a...
Hang on, he did. Casey. Wait, who said that? Letitia Martinez. Letitia. CP accused Sebastian of false reporting. Remember, he brought it up. He's like, the worker told Sebastian, you can't make things up. That's illegal.
Christopher's stepmom, Linda, on the phone with me. She was on speakerphone, and I told her what was going on. Little did I know everybody was in on this.
Yeah, this is
And
this
Terry
is a crime.
answered the door, which is Chris's stepfather. And he told me that I need to get off of his fucking property.
This piece of shit.
And here little Noah, who's 3 years old, and my Isabella's 7.
This guy told a 3 and 7-year-old and their mother to get off his effing property.
And they're standing behind me. And I said, please tell me what's going on. I said, where's Faith? I said, please give me my baby back. And he told me, get off my fucking property. And he took out a green and black baseball bat.
How did I not hear this in the first time? He got a baseball bat? Exactly, Serenity. Thank you so much for your super chat. If they can set up a plan to do this to Nina, then I don't know what they might have set up to do to Sebastian. This is when the FBI would be involved. Yes, I do believe it, women. I do. A baseball bat on a mother and her children? The first time I watched it, I know it was so much.
Please give me my baby back. And he told me, get off my fucking property. And he took out a green and black baseball bat. And he told me to fucking leave or he's gonna bash me and my kids' heads.
Bash their heads in?
So me and my kids walked back to my truck. And we got back in it. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? This is a nightmare. What am I gonna do?
What? Hey, titties.
And Chris was inside of the house with the baby. I saw his shadow. And they lied for him and they said that he was in California and he really wasn't.
I caught this,
So,
that Chris wasn't really in California. He lied.
we go back to the apartment and I'm trying to gather all my thoughts together. I'm trying to keep as calm as I can for my other two children. But all I could do is just cry. And just think, like, what is my next move? What am I going to do now? I'm so far away from home. I'm far away from my parents. I'm far away from everything that I've ever known. So then I make a call to my brother, who, he lives in Phoenix. And I told him what was going on, and he was so upset. And he's like, oh, my God. And he's like, have you called mom and dad yet? And I said, no. And he told me himself that day, he said, you're going to fight. You're going to fight like hell to get Faith back. You don't leave that baby in that state. You fight like hell to get her back, whatever it takes. And that's what I did. I called my mom and dad. And it had to happen after midnight here, so about like 1 something our time there. My dad answered the phone. And I couldn't talk. All I could do is cry. I couldn't get the words out. And finally he said, calm down. Please calm down and tell me what happened. And I told him. I said, Daddy, they did my baby.
Oh, my God.
And all he could get out is, oh no, they hurt my baby. And he started crying. And he woke my mom up.
Oh, my God.
And he said, you hang in there, we're on our way. So every single day, I worked at a local Great Flips out there. And I went in from the time it opened to the time it closed. That following morning after all this had happened, I went to my bank account and to my savings. I've been saving money through this whole entire time, but I've been using it since we were out there so I can help support my kids and myself. But little did I know that Christopher wanted me to use all my money because he didn't want me to have anything so I wouldn't retain a lawyer. So that morning before I went to work and dropped my kids off, at the time, Michael and Linda, which is Christopher's biological father, and his stepmother were still helping me watch my kids because I still had to work. And I went into my bank account and I remember I only had $1,100 in there. And I was looking through the phone book or looking through, my phone and saying, well, I need to get a lawyer. Who can I get? Thank God for Mr. Edwards, because I went into his office before, I called into work that day pretty much. And I said, I need to just think. I said, I need a day off. So I went into his office and I ended up doing a consultation with him. And I remember him, he told me what his fees were and he told me, I told him the situation. And he was in shock, and he goes, my God, he goes, this all happened? Like, you should have never came out here. And I said, I know, I should have never, should have never came out here. So at the time, I explained the situation to Mr. Edwards, and I was crying. And I said, Mr. Edwards, I said, I just want my baby back. And then I remember I still had my wedding ring on at that point in time. And I slipped off my wedding ring and I sat it on his desk. And he looks at me and I said, please, sir, I'm not doing anything, just for my baby back.
Wow.
He said, you're all I have. Please help me.
Damn. She put her wedding ring on the desk to pay this guy to defend her against these monsters. Guys, this is so... I can't even imagine my daughter being held hostage by the Bowersocks. Her fucking wedding ring, dude. I mean, that's totally desperation.
I remember he took out his little magnifying glass and he looked at it and he put his head down. And he goes, God. He goes, I work for money. I said, and I know, sir. I said, and I promise I will pay you every time that I can. Just help me bring my baby home. And he said, you got yourself a lawyer. And he fought. He fought like hell for faith.
Oh my God, G-Lynn, I'm so sorry.
We went to, everything happened in Gallatin Courthouse. My parents were there. We went to the first trial, and I remember walking in the courthouse and my stomach was turning. I hadn't seen my baby. And they had my baby there. Just in arm's reach, and I couldn't even hold her, and I couldn't even kiss her, and I couldn't even tell her I love her.
Hey, Potato.
So we went to trial. I don't know what you want to call it, a trial, a hearing. I think I was just so oblivious to everything at that point because I was so heartbroken that my baby was gone. And we go into the courtroom and all I had was my dad in there.
Thank you, Gigi.
And their side, all the benches filled up with his family being loud and laughing.
Oh my God.
And it was just my daddy and me.
Imagine them bringing all of their family into this courtroom, laughing and making snide remarks. These people are assholes. This isn't just Chris. This is the whole family. This is the whole family, and it's just her and her dad. Think about it. If Katie wanted to leave, she's got nobody. Who's she going to turn to? Nowhere to run to, baby.
Mr. Edwards. And I remember the judge, his attorney, just everybody in there. All the hurtful things that they put on black and white about me. Just the eyes glaring at me and making it seem like I was a bad person. And I sat there. And he asked me a couple of questions, and I answered. One of them was, "Why did you move out here, Miss Proudfoot?" I said, "Your Honor, to try to make my marriage work," said in which it didn't. I said, "I made a mistake by coming out here. I made a mistake by trusting somebody. And I said, if I could change back the hands of time, I probably wouldn't have even came out here." And they did whatever they were doing, and then the judge, said that I only had visitation with Faith, and they all had to be supervised. So then the supervised visitations started happening.
Supervised. You hear this? Based on what?
We would visit Faith.
What the heck?
And I remember one visitation that had happened at a park.
Okay, hold on. Why would she get supervised? What the heck? It says their court is the 9th at 8:30 in the morning on Zoom.
Park. I can't recall the park's name, but there was a duck pond and really nice playground for the kids. And I remember Kathy showing up with Faith, and we all sat there, got Faith out of the car seat.
Wait a minute.
I
So this court thought that it would be better for Faith to be in the hands of Kathy Bowersox? I'm not sure if the public can watch because it's family court. I don't know the rules there. But they thought it would be better for her to be in the hands of Kathy versus her mom. Mentally ill and unfit with absolutely no testing. They just believed them. Sometimes money works. Money talks. Sick.
slamming on her and kissing her, telling her how much I love her, how much we missed her. And I handed her to her big sister. And I took a picture of those two. And my oldest daughter was crying. We only had about, I believe it was between 20 and 30 minutes of visitation with Faith once a week, if I'm right. There's a lot of things that after so many years, it's hard. Like, I would just remember, like, the big things that happened, and that was one of them.
Oh, that's right. He called and reported her. That's right. He told that part of the story. He said she took the kid, went back to New Mexico and filed against him. And he said he filed in court against her. And I'm eating a chicken salad sandwich, Alep.
Between 20 and 30 minutes. And my son was there. And then Kathy got her ready to leave. They had to leave first, and then we left after. I remember holding my son and my daughter's hand, and we were walking back to my vehicle. And my son started crying. And I started crying, and then my daughter started crying. And he said, "Mama, I'm going to run super fast, Mama. I'm going to go grab Faith, and you meet me on the other side of the park, Mama. I'm going to run so fast, and then you drive off, Mama." The pain that Christopher and his family has brought to my family is pain that we'll never forget. Pain that we live with every single day of our lives. And I remember that very clear. And we went home. We had another trial a couple weeks later. Was I believe, I want to say it was in maybe November, either in October or November. I can't recall the date.
Yeah, she had no resources.
But at that trial,
bullshit.
I was praying to God and to my God that we were going to bring Faith home.
Yeah, did they not look into that?
And we went to that courthouse, and with my mom and dad and Isabella and Noah. At this point in time, my mom was going to testify against Christopher. My daughter was going to testify against Christopher.
Oh, shit. Her daughter was going to testify against Christopher. Put your hand up if you think that Sebastian was going to testify against Christopher.
And they had said, his lawyer at the time had said, don't let her daughter testify. And so we went without it, nobody testifying that day. Christopher had ended up getting, he was talking at the time. Judge was asking him all kinds of questions.
I'm thinking maybe he was.
And he made me look like a monster. He made me look like I was the problem.
Evil.
He made me feel awful about myself and saying all these things in front of these people that weren't even true. It wasn't even true.
How humiliating. Chris Proudfoot and family,
And then
you're
it came
monsters.
to my attorney talking. And at that point in time, I was just like, gosh, like, oh God, please let a miracle. Just like, let this just be over with. When people tell lies and when they say hurtful things about you, you just feel so disgusting about yourself. And that's the way I felt. And I remember we needed to break and come back. And Mr. Edwards at that point in time went into the chambers with the judge. And I don't know what was being said, being done back there, but he was in there for a while. And he ended up coming back out. Court was back in session. Everything was, we were going back and forth again. And at some point in time, the judge just had enough. The judge was done hearing everything that had happened. And Christopher, was speaking, and the judge just said, that's enough. Like, I don't want to even hear what you have to say anymore. He's like, you premeditated this? This was premeditated. You knew exactly what you and your family were doing. You brought this woman out here with her children, and you guys knew exactly what you were doing. And he said, 8:30, Gallatin's Sheriff's Department, that's where the exchange is going to happen. My heart just dropped, like, and my attorney looks at me and he said, you just won. You won. And I wanted to scream.
She's like, what?
I wanted to hit my knees, and all I could think about is, I couldn't wait to wrap my arms around my baby again. And the judge, everybody was hysterical on his side, of course, and my daughter and my mom were waiting out there. And I remember his uncle going out there, and he swung open the door, and he was so angry. And my daughter
Chris's
overheard
uncle.
him say, she won. She won. And I remember my dad was still sitting behind me, and and he had tears in his eyes, and he's like, "Let's go." And my attorney followed me outside, and we went out, and there was just so much chaos coming from the Proudfoots, and we went outside very humbly, and he took us in back of the courthouse the other way, and right there and then I hit my knees. I finally could be relieved, like a big, like, oh my God, we did this. And he said, 8:30, go pick her up. I said, thank you, Mr. Edwards. I said, I owe you my life to you helped me get my baby back. So then we went back to our truck, and we went back to the apartment. We packed what we could, and we pretty much left everything else behind.
Big D.
In the storage unit. At that time, I didn't need anything, because I had everything I've ever wanted. So I remember my dad saying, come on, we gotta go. So we went to the sheriff's department.
Listen to this part. The sheriff's department in Gallatin.
We showed up, and I remember I told my dad, I said, wait here. I said, stay at that Wendy's. So my dad stayed at that Wendy's waiting for me, and he said, okay, he's like, you call me when you're on your way so I can follow you out, okay? And I said, okay, Dad. We got to the sheriff's department. Christopher and his Michael, Linda, Kathy, Big D, Melissa, his whole entire family was there. So then the exchange was happening, and they live streamed me on Facebook.
They live streamed her on Facebook.
They said, I can't believe the judge awarded her custody. I was just standing there, I remember, and I said, can I have my baby back, please? And I remember his mother had her phone in her hand, or his mother, yes, and she had a brown paper sack full of diapers and a dirty bottle. And she threw it at me, and she said, I think you're going to need this, laughing.
This is Kathy Bowersox. This is Chris's mother. Oh, I'm sure she got a copy of it. If she has a lawyer, they can subpoena these things. They can subpoena their records. They can actually subpoena all of this and probably get to the bottom of their little plan with Big D and all these motherfuckers. Thank you so much, Skinny, for the $20 super chat. Appreciate you. She is a fucking pig. And that's Mom on the screen.
And I said, thank you. And my two younger children were sitting in the back. And then I said, okay, can I have Faith back now? So
thanks, Caroline, for being here.
I forget if it was Kathy or Chris, but they tossed her at me, and I caught her. And I said, thank you. So then I get her in her car seat, trying to buckle her up and telling my kids, I said, you need to buckle up. I said, okay, we're going to leave. I remember at the time, my front door had opened at that time, and Christopher got inside of my driver's seat of my truck. And everybody was still filming, live streaming me on Facebook.
Unbelievable.
And Melissa Proudfoot had said, why don't you put it in reverse and drive over her?
Do you hear that? Melissa This is Chris's sister. You know the fat bitch that was getting an attitude with Sebastian at the bowling alley? Sorry. I'm not trying to body shame, but she is just ugly inside and out. And I don't like any of these people. Fight me. These people are awful. Run her over? Melissa, you need to be behind bars. So do your parents. And so does your stupid Play-Doh-lipped brother. You all should be flung into jail. What you did is a crime. This is a crime.
And Melissa Proudfoot had said, "Why don't you put it in reverse and drive over her?" And I told my kids, I said, "Get out. I'm trying to get Faith out again." And I told my kids, and I remember he put the truck in reverse. And I told my kids, I said, "Get out." I said, "Jump, get out." And I remember them getting out as fast as they could. And we're running into the sheriff's department, and I had Faith, and I'm running, and I'm yelling, and I'm asking for help. I said, "Somebody please help me." Nobody came out.
Nobody came out.
And then finally,
This is in Gallatin. She said this was in Gallatin.
he came in, Christopher, behind me. And they finally opened the door. And they put me in a back room with my kids. They turned the lights off on us.
What?
In the process of me calling my attorney to tell him what was going on, Kathy disconnected my cell phone.
Wait, what? Wait a minute. I need to hear this again. Is this at the sheriff's department? They put her in a room with no lights on. Okay, let's go back. After she threw the diaper, the bag in the bottle.
And then I said, "Okay, can I have Faith back now?" So I forget if it was Kathy or Chris, but they tossed her at me, and I caught her.
Tossed her at her.
And I said, "Thank you." So then I get her in her car seat, trying to buckle her up and telling my kids, I said, "You need to buckle up." I said, "Okay, we're going to leave." I remember at the time, my front door had opened at that time, and Christopher got inside of my driver's seat of my truck.
He got inside her car after this. Is this not a guy that doesn't know personal space or what? He said Sebastian didn't know personal space. He gets in her car while they're live streaming. I hope that she has a copy of this. I really do. I mean, they should have all been arrested. This is horrible.
And everybody was still filming, live streaming me on Facebook. And Melissa Proudfoot had said, "Why don't you put it in reverse and drive over her?" And I told my kids, I said, "Get out. I'm trying to get Faith out again." And I told my kids, and I remember he put the truck in reverse.
The fuck?
And I told my kids, I said, "Get out." I said, "Jump, get out." And I remember them getting out as fast as they could. And we're running into the sheriff's department, and I had Faith, and I'm running, and I'm yelling, and I'm asking for help. I said, "Somebody please help me." Nobody came out. And then finally, he came in, Christopher, behind me.
Then he comes in behind her.
And they finally opened the door. And they put me in a back room with my kids. They turned the lights off on us.
What the fuck?
In the process of me calling my attorney to tell him what was going on, Kathy disconnected my cell phone.
What's up, T-Rev?
And
What the?
I remember Mr. Edwards calling the police department and telling them they need to let me go. And at the time, Christopher was still in the military. And Mr. Edwards, I remember them telling him, you need to she needs to go because this could possibly cause Mr. Proudfoot his career. So at that point in time, I got escorted outside.
This could possibly cost Mr. Proudfoot his career? I didn't catch half this shit, y'all, when we went through it the first time. And we've heard that Melissa works at the sheriff's department, right? The sheriff's department is the same LE leading for Sebastian. So Gallatin is in Sumner County, from what you guys are saying, right? So it was Sumner County Sheriff and Gallatin PD in this case. Damn. Was Craddock there at that time? Was Deputy Eric Craddock there at that time? No, don't tell him that, Gator Gal, because I like watching him when I lay down for the night. And don't do it, T-Rev. The time works for me. I'm just kidding. Everybody shout out T-Rev.
Put me in a back room with my kids. They turned the lights off on us. In the process of me calling my attorney to tell him what was going on, Kathy disconnected my cell phone. And I remember Mr. Edwards calling the police department and telling them they need to let me go. And at the time, Christopher was still in the military. And Mr. Edwards, I remember them telling him, she needs to go because this could possibly cause Mr. Proudfoot his career. So at that point in time, I got escorted outside by a couple of sheriffs that were there. They seemed like they knew each other, all of them, the Proudfoots. And I remember Christopher had asked one of the sheriffs if he could say goodbye to Faith, and I said, absolutely not. So I remember getting in my truck after I got the kids in, and I called my dad and I told him what happened. He was so mad. He goes, he was lucky I wasn't there. I'd have knocked the shit out of him. So I said, all right, Dad, I'm coming.
Thank you, Bigger.
Well, everybody followed me down the interstate. My dad and I were weaving in and out of traffic, trying to lose them. The whole family were following me and Dad about 80, 90 miles an hour. We were going down the interstate just to get away from them.
She was probably, okay. So she was probably on her plan. So she said, how did she, if cats had thumbs, how did she delete or turn off her cell phone? It sounds to me like the Bowersox like to control everything, right? So like she was probably on Kathy's plan. Think about it. Whose car is or whose name is Katie's car in? I've seen it reported several times here on the tubes and on Facebook and shit. Whose name is Katie's Infiniti in? I know y'all looked it up. I know y'all done looked that up. It's old Ma Bowersox. It's old Ma Bowersox's vehicle. It's registered to her. So if old Ma Bowersox has the same vehicle, just in a little different shade and a newer model, how do we know that they didn't switch vehicles? You know, because it was dark and you maybe wouldn't be able to tell. I don't know. Gator Gal, I'm glad you're here. Melissa is a clerk at the county sheriff's office, says Cunning. Interesting. Intertwined in some way, shape, or form. So my question today, we're going to get back to Nina. We're about halfway through. My question today, and I put it in the community, is this. And I want y'all to think about this while we watch this. It is, if Chris and Katie were on a three-way that morning with the sheriff's department, and Katie was too hysterical to speak, who notified old Ma Bowersox to come over to Katie? And how did Katie manage to drive around in her light blue Infiniti if she was so upset that she had to be muted and could not speak with the Popo? Why was it rumored that old Ma Bowersox was seen at the store across the street from Beach High School that morning, a little bit before 6 a.m.? Could Katie and old Ma have switched Infiniti SUVs that morning? What time did old Ma get to the house that morning? Back to Nina. They followed her on the freeway. Even after she won, they couldn't take it. These people can't take losing.
We drove all night. We finally got to Little Rock, Arkansas. And Dad had asked me, "Are you tired?" So I could see if I could try to sleep. We couldn't sleep. So then we drove all the way home. We were all scared. We didn't know what was gonna happen. We drove. The relief that I had just to see, I've never felt so relieved to see that New Mexico. Welcome to New Mexico sign.
God, can you imagine getting the fuck out of Tennessee?
I was finally home. Finally, we made it.
Mm-hmm.
Chris kept calling, and I avoided him like a plague. Because the judge in Tennessee awarded me custody. He had no jurisdiction over Faith or myself or my other two children. And at the time of all this, they brought CPS involved in that case over there. So we get home here, not even a couple days goes by. He ended up calling CPS on us here. And using CPS against me every chance that he got. Showing up to my kids at school. Scaring my kids. Just like he did in Tennessee. So I filed for divorce here, which I should have filed on tribal land at the time. Because I wouldn't be going through this. So the divorce happened, but it dragged on and on and on because Christopher made a big deal about absolutely everything. I had to ask for permission to leave Bernalillo County. I had to tell him what I was doing.
Okay. This is really getting scary. If he did this to Nina, he's doing this to Katie. I'm hearing that her phone was restricted and old Ma Bowersox was able to control that because they were on her plan. So if I have you on my plan, and I could use even parental controls to shut your shit off. I mean, if you're on my plan with me and I give you this phone, I can do whatever the hell I want. But what I'm thinking is maybe Katie doesn't say much because she doesn't have access to reach out when he's not around. Maybe her phone is also, monitored, if you will. Right. You're not supposed to have an earbud in talking on the phone when you're listening to the Crane radio or whatever it is they listen to. It's against OSHA. And that's probably why the motherfucker doesn't have a job. That's probably why he, quote unquote, switched jobs, because he was doing something that was against policy that would be a complete liability to his company. On Spotify? Okay, let me pull it up. Let me pull it up, y'all. Let's keep listening to Nina and I'll find it, okay?
And if I left New Mexico, he had to know. I am part Native American. So our reservation is probably about 4 to 5 hours from Albuquerque. And at the time, my grandmother was still alive. So we would go out there to see her. And he really never wanted me to take Faith out there. And on top of that, he really never wanted Faith to be Native American. Christopher knew that I was Mexican American and also Native American, but he hated the fact that, and he still hates the fact that Faith is part Native American. So just everything, he would take me back to court for just everything. It wasn't a good divorce. And the parenting plans, it had to be his way or nobody's way. He had to have the last word, and this is what he wanted, and his attorney made sure that's exactly what he got. A lot of times, I gave in because I wanted it to be over. I didn't want to have to or have somebody dictate what I can and can't do. I mean, I've been a mother for an X amount of years at this time, and it wasn't like, I'm new to all this. But everything had always had to have been Christopher's way. And even though I gave him what he wanted, it was something different. Oh, Faith can't wear leggings, or, just the stupidest things, or, it was dumb. I can't even recall how many hearings I went to with Christopher. It's been horrible. So at this point in time, I didn't really agree to the parenting plan. I didn't like it, but I signed it anyways, just because I wanted it to be over with. The divorce was finally final. And he was still stationed, I believe, in San Diego at this point in time. He was, if I'm correct, he was already living with Katie when we were still married. We were going through the divorce, but he had moved in with her. And I was pretty surprised how fast he moved on with his life. Like we never mattered. Like Faith was, like, he never had a family. But I should have known that as well prior to the marriages before me, like how he just moved on so quickly with his life. So he would take Faith out there when she was little, like for 2 weeks or a week. And, Katie and them would be living the family life. I, at the time, did not know Sebastian or Katie. I would just see Katie through FaceTime, where she would be doing something in the background. And I would ask Christopher, I would tell him, I can't believe you've moved on with your life so quick. Like who does that? Well, back and forth we would be going, with Faith. And I finally moved on with my life. But Christopher had made a statement the other night on one of the interviews, the podcasts that he was doing. And I didn't like the way he said this, how he called Nina move in with a man. Like, he knows this person's name.
Boom, Tia.
And he deserves to be called his name, not the man. And remind you, I've known Wayne for over 3.5 years. He was my client before we even got exclusive, like being in a relationship, before we even moved in together. He knew I had children. I mean, just so for him to sit there and say that, he basically made it sound like he didn't know this person. He does. So here we are. Faith is 6. I'm still living in this nightmare that he's created.
6 years.
We live in fear every single day. We're constantly watching over our backs. My kids don't even know what a normal childhood should feel like, because they were exposed to all this at a very young age. The awful things that other people could do. My oldest daughter said it best.
What's the title of Nancy's thing today on
Today's
Spotify?
my mom. I feel like I was robbed of my childhood because of Chris.
Can you give me a minute
Because of
marker?
everything that he's done. I've had to grow up so quick to protect my siblings. And you protecting us and always living in fear.
Oh.
Being called to the office and wondering if Child Protective Services was there. She's 15 now and still hates to go to the office because of everything that he's done and his family has done.
So this daughter, her daughter is 15, the one that he hit in the mouth allegedly and made her bleed. She's had to live with this bullshit her whole life because of this idiot. I interrupt our regularly scheduled video for this update. Nancy Grace, we've had a lot of movement, guys. Think about what we know. We know that was not Sebastian per the authorities. They're saying that wasn't him in that picture. We have Nancy Grace now coming out saying he passed.
If you're over 50, you don't want to use traditional makeup. As we
Seth
age, our skin
passed
tends
the
to
polygraph.
lose moisture, and we all get lines.
Listen.
Traditional makeup.
We all remember that moment when I put Sebastian's father, Seth, on the hot seat on national TV and asked him, would he be willing to take a polygraph? He said yes. He did take a polygraph. Straight back out to Seth Rogers. Joining us is Sebastian's father. And
here we
now
go.
Joining us is
The heat is
renowned
on.
polygrapher, Kendall Schule, former head of the entire FBI Polygraph program in D.C., former special agent with the FBI in D.C. He is at Kendall Investigations. Also joining us, Tony Mathis, who is helping Seth Rogers as he walks this very, very rocky path. First of all, let me just get this.
The FBI, what? Did you hear that dude's credentials? I'm telling you right now, for Chris Proudfoot and Katie, the heat is on. They have officially cleared Seth Rogers, y'all. The FBI. Listen to that credential again. Oh, I'm telling you, they didn't just light a fire under these motherfuckers. They just lit like a bomb.
A renowned polygrapher, Kendall Schule, former head of the entire FBI Polygraph program in D.C., former special agent with the FBI in D.C. He is at Kendall Investigations. Also joining us, Tony Mathis, who is helping Seth Rogers as he walks this very, very rocky path. First of all, let me just get this out of the way. This is a yes/no, Kendall Schule. Did Seth Rogers pass his polygraph?
Yes, he did.
Oh!
Okay, Seth Rogers, tell me about going and taking the polygraph. We want to hear every single word because I've got a stack of nasty online posts about you failing, about you not going, blah, blah, blah. A lot of trolls chiming in. Let's get to the truth of that polygraph. Seth, what happened?
I showed up early for the polygraph. Mr. Kendall contacted me and told me that he'd be there well before the time that we had stated. So I showed up and I sat in the chair and let him attach those things to me and took the polygraph.
Have you ever had a polygraph before?
No, ma'am.
And what kind of questions did the polygrapher Kendall Schewel ask you?
If I had ever wanted to harm anybody, if I ever wanted to hurt my son, if I had ever hurt my son, if I'd ever had anything to do with his disappearance.
Question. You said they hooked you up. What do you mean by that, Seth Rogers?
They put things on my hands. They wrapped cords around me. They had a blood pressure cuff on me to measure my blood pressure, measure my heart rate, my breathing rate, things like that.
How long did it take?
It took a minute.
It took 60 seconds. Could you be precise or more precise? How long do you think it took?
We were there for 3 hours.
Damn, 3 hours. Wow.
That's about right. It's not easy. Okay, sit tight, Seth. And again, thank you for being with us. Out to Kendall Schewel, as I told you, former head of the entire FBI polygraph program in D.C. Kendall, thank you. When we put out the word that Seth Rogers would take a polygraph, we contacted you because of your reputation. You quickly agreed, and I thank you for that. Again, this was not free. He was paid to do the polygraph. He owes nothing to anybody and therefore was not swayed one way or the other. He had never met Seth Rogers before in his life. Mr. Schewel, I've looked very carefully at your polygraph report right here. Number one, you start off by saying it was conducted using a comparison question format that meets U.S. government standards. What is a comparison question format? What is that?
It's a format that's well accepted by the polygraph community, particularly the American Polygraph Association. There are certain formats that we can use that are more acceptable, that we know are more reliable, and this was one of those. Certainly a test format that I would want to use to make sure we're doing everything right to get the correct results. And this is again a format of polygraph that is widely accepted as a standard in the FBI world and in the polygraph world in general.
Woo!
We all remember that moment when...
That is amazing. That is amazing, guys. Whew. We've got a lot going on, okay? It is getting hot in here.
So hot in here.
It will be interesting to see how things transpire from here. So what really worries me is now they've cleared Seth. They've confirmed that that is not Sebastian in North Carolina. But we still have this concerning site in Mississippi just outside of Jackson where human remains were found Sunday and Monday. So I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I do want to keep my eye on that. The official word is Seth took a poly with not just any polygrapher. Nancy went big. She was like, I'm going big or going home. She sat Seth Rogers down with the lead of the FBI polygraphy department. Do you hear what I'm saying? This guy trains polygraphers to work for the FBI and the CBI and the TBI and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So no one could dispute it. She went big. He didn't do it for free. Damn. And you know what? Seth Rogers walked in there and he sat down with the lead of the FBI because you can't outsmart him, Chris Proudfoot. You can't outsmart him, Chris Proudfoot, and you didn't do it. And what did we listen to him say on Nancy last night? You name the time and the place, and I'll be there. Well, guess what, Proudfooters?
Because you're a liar.
You are a liar, and shit is getting a little too deep. Even mommy can't scoop you out of this one. Because I'm thinking maybe we're going to see a mom and son. I don't know. I mean, I thought with Roberta Laundrie we were going to see an arrest, but if this is all true,
I don't know.
I do have the actual missing persons report on Madeline Soto. And we can go over that before we end the live. So let's go back. That is great news about Sebastian Rogers' dad. But Chris Proudmouth, yeah, you need to you're gonna have to step up or something. I mean, how are you gonna explain this one? The biological father took his do what?
Flung. I mean, I'm sure there was stuff slung and slung. And
Cat's eyes. You think we're going to see multiple? He said he did a test. Nancy Grace has not confirmed that. All right, back to our regularly, I can't say that word right, regularly scheduled video. Back to Nina and her heartbreaking story. More about these proud shits. The proud shits. And this dude in here keeps saying that YouTubers are going to get sued by the proud shits. For what? Talking about public info? I've never seen anyone get sued for that. But hey, you know what I got to say? Bring it on. Bring it all in. I've been sued by a national network, Nexstar Media. Bring it all in. I mean, what are they going to sue me for? I don't really like threats either.
I feel helpless because I feel like I can't protect them enough. And I wish there was more that I can do. We're still living in this nightmare. We're still going to court. He still complains about everything when it's not his way. In the beginning, there was CPS called. He used Child Protective Service on me because of the divorce, to get my children taken away from me.
Yeah, he said he could.
He has a friend that works at Albuquerque Police Department as well.
Chris didn't say he took a poly. That's right. We just watched it yesterday. You're right, Mohawk Mom. Thank you. And Pamela, he said, Nancy asked both of Chris and Katie, have you guys taken a poly? And she says, I have. He says, I have not. And then she says, would you be willing to? And he said, name the time and place and I'll be there.
I don't know if he still keeps in contact with him. I believe so. He was told to do a welfare check on us one night, but he didn't take the call, probably because he knew both of us. I mean, I don't know, and I don't know how that would have been used against him either, I guess. Maybe he was worried about that. Just, he's been filing for full custody, Christopher, for about a year to 2 years now, if I recall. A lot of this stuff is just, it doesn't make sense to me. He's made a mess. He tells people that I'm unstable, that I need a psychiatric evaluation, that I'm, that I'm pretty much crazy. It's been a nightmare. And the recent one, why he's pushing for full custody, is because I moved Faith out of Bosque Farms Elementary to a Native American academy in Albuquerque, where my youngest son goes and my oldest daughter goes down the street to a high school, and it's a minute away. So I was trying to make the commute easier for all of us. All my kids are in curricular activities. My son's in football. My Faith cheers for her brother's Yaffle football team. So practice, my 2 older girls are in Mexican folk dancing, Faith and her older sister are in Mexican folk dancing. My children are in 4-H. So my kids are super busy, and I work in the city as well. So trying to make my life easier, I decided to put her there. And he did not like that, him and his attorney. So they're pushing for full custody about that. I mean, I can't even recall how many other nonsense issues have been brought up. My children, myself, I mean, I'm over it. I'm tired. This has worn my whole entire family down, my children, myself. Well, this is like the first thing I think of when I wake up, and the last thing I think about when I go to sleep. There's no words to explain this feeling. I mean, and on top of that, we were supposed to go to trial March 5th,
sorry.
I believe it was.
I had it boosted for that interview. I'm sorry. Let me turn that
March
off.
5th, and the first one, March 5th. I went to court January 2nd of 2024. Continuing cases, I had to pay for his attorney fees because I pulled Faith out of Bosque Farms. Although I contacted him through email, he never replied to me. I contacted my lawyer at the time, he never replied to me, so what was I supposed to do? I mean, I had to do what was in best interest for Faith and everybody else. So I ended up paying the legal fee for Christopher because his lawyer complained about that. So then we went to trial. We got a date for trial. Boy, I was furious when I left my lawyer's office. I feel like I hire all these lawyers that never took the bat for Faith and listened to anything that I have ever said. I've always told people in the past, the people that were working for Faith and myself, the kind of person that Christopher really was. Nobody listened.
Nobody listened.
I mean, he's hurt my children. He's hurt my son. He's backhanded my son as well and busted his nose open when he was 3 in the car seat in San Diego.
What?
He's did that to my daughter.
Wait, what did he do in a car seat?
Nobody listened. I mean, he's hurt my children. He's hurt my son. He's backhanded my son as well and busted his nose open when he was 3 in the car seat.
In San Diego, he backhanded her son in the face? Oh my God.
I hate you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
He backhanded a baby sitting in a car seat.
listen to anything that I have ever said.
Oh my God, Kristen, yes.
I've always told people in the past, the people that were working for Faith and myself, the kind of person that Christopher really was.
No one listened.
Nobody listened. I mean, he's hurt my children. He's hurt my son. He's backhanded my son as well and busted his nose open when he was 3 in the car seat in San Diego. He's did that to my daughter. He's hurt Faith in the car seat, like I said. It's fallen on dead ears. It's coming up on 7 years. Nobody listens to me. Nobody knows the pain that a mother that I've went through. Nobody knows that I live in fear. It's like back and forth. It's like a game to Christopher with Faith. Christopher dangles Faith over my head as if she's like some kind of toy to be played with.
It's his property. It's
She's
his
not a
property.
toy. She's a little girl.
Poor Faith.
That has feelings. And strong feelings. We can't help the fact that Christopher decided to move to Tennessee. He chose that for himself. I've never known of a person that lives in a whole different state and still dictates what you can and can't do to the other parent. He had a choice to live here. He was actually told to move here.
Thank you, Jules.
By the judge. But he lives in Tennessee. He tells me pretty much what I can and can't do still to this day by that court order.
He still has her by the balls by a Tennessee court order, guys. Wow.
So, going back to the trial, was getting prepared. And I get the call. You get a call. And at this point in time, I'm not talking to Christopher. We don't, I want to make that loud and clear. We do not have a good co-parenting relationship.
How could you with him?
We don't talk on a regular basis. I refuse to talk to Christopher because everything has to be his way.
Thank you, Detective.
I don't entertain any of his conversations. In the past, when I used to, and I thought that a relationship between him and I, and we're learning how to co-parent and it's good, it backfired. It kicked me in my ass. Everything that I told, he used against me in court all the time, every single thing. So I had to learn not to trust him. I've had to, I don't talk to him. So for him to say on some of his podcasts is that we have good, parenting skills, or we don't know how to talk to each other. I refuse to communicate with this man.
You can't communicate with this asshole.
He calls me that Wednesday, and he's like, and I was like, oh great, he's calling. So I went straight to voicemail.
So
and
now
this is 911.
This is the day about Sebastian going missing, I believe.
Call me. So then I was like, well, it must be emergency, so let me call him. I called him and I said, what's up, Chris? And he was like, he's like, Nina, I gotta tell you something. And I was like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna tell me that the trial, we're not gonna go to trial, that everything is gonna be done with, and we don't need to worry, and we can, we don't need to do all this stuff. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. And then he tells me, I got to be open and honest with you. And then he pauses like for 6 or 7 seconds. And I'm like, well, I was like, what? What do you have to tell me? So then at that point in time, he tells me that Sebastian went missing. And I was speechless. I have to say I was speechless. And then I went into saying, well, what happened? Like, I mean, how did he go missing? Like, what happened? And he said, well, he went missing between 12:30 and 6 a.m. And I'm like, if thinking to myself, and then, like, that's crazy. And I said, don't you have security cameras, Christopher? I said, you mean you have security cameras in your house? I mean, don't you? And he paused. He didn't say anything. So then I said, what happened to your dogs? They said, don't your dogs? They said, you have those Yorkies or... And I said, every time that I call Faye, they said they're barking. He didn't say nothing. So I said, I said, are you lying to me? I said, because, I mean, thinking in my head, like, are you just buying more time for this trial that's coming up? Like, what other information are you going to find out that you're going to use against me, right? So then I said, I'm going to look this up. And I said, have you contacted your lawyer yet? I said, we still have a trial, I said, at 8:30 next Tuesday. And he had raised his voice at me and he said, we're not going. And I was like, don't raise your voice at me. You're not going to disrespect me like that. You're not going to raise your voice at me. So then I said, by law, I said, I have to contact my attorney. And I said, I'm going to email him as soon as I get off the phone with you. And I'm going to tell him that there's a missing child. And I had stated, like, okay, well, is there like something, we could do? Can you send me like a flyer? Can you send me something? I said, I could put it on my social media and it'll take off. Like, I have a lot of people that I know and a lot of my clientele. I said, we're willing to, they share a lot of my stuff. So he never sent me anything. And he was so worried about his phone, and he had said something. He's like, the fucking cops had my phone, and I had to call Faith, and I told him I had to fucking call my daughter. And I said, Christopher, I said, you need to calm down. I said, Faith is fine. She's with me. I'm her mother. I said, she's with her family here. I said, you don't need to worry about her. You don't need to worry about her whatsoever. And and he wanted to say more, and he repeated himself again, and he said, I need to be honest with you. And I was like, Christopher, I don't have time for this. I said, I just don't. I said, I gotta go. And
did you guys catch that, Mohawk? I caught that too. He waited till Wednesday. Sebastian was reported missing on Monday. Yes, Miss Robin, hey, he passed. Yep. He passed a polygraph with the head of the FBI polygraph team, whatever they're called. The polygraphist, the polygrapher of polygraphers. And they've also released, Sumner County said that is not Sebastian in North Carolina.
That was it, the conversation that I had with him. I keep kind of beating myself up. Maybe I should have stayed on the phone a little bit longer. Maybe I should have let him talk. But with the experiences that I've had with Christopher in the past, I just couldn't trust him. So then I contacted my attorney the next day and I told him what was going on.
Good point, Alexandra.
With Sebastian. I mean, I was hoping that, and I keep hoping, and we're praying every single day for his return home. But the more and more days that had passed by, the more and more that I got, like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. Like, and the things that didn't make sense to me was why Christopher and Katie aren't looking for Sebastian. I don't know, but I know if one of my babies went missing, I'd be out there searching night and day.
Absolutely. This is why she did this interview, guys, is because of Sebastian.
I don't know how somebody could just sit at home
Like now it's public
just
that
wait
Seth
for
is
your baby to
cleared. That's
return.
huge. It's
When
not
I'd be
that we
out there
thought
looking
Seth would
every single
fail.
second, I'd be out there by horseback. I'd be out there by a golf cart, by whatever I can get my hands on to get into the forest and look, or wherever in these neighborhoods, wherever I could possibly go.
She just said horseback, and that made me think of something. Do you guys remember when Chris was, yucking it up over there on Cluminati's panel? Yucking it up, changing his voice. They're laughing along, har, 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 like it's so fucking funny. And then he sang this song. And I was like, oh my God, I have that soundbite. But he sang this song being funny.
I've been through the desert on a horse with no name.
I'd still be wearing the same clothes that my son or daughter went missing in. I'd be running on adrenaline. All I could think about is the time that happened to me when they took Faith from me. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even drink water. I lost so much weight. And I knew where my baby was at. And this hits home for us because of Faith. Faith's known Sebastian pretty much half of her life, or her whole entire life. I feel for Seth. I feel for his family, the Rogers family. I'm in shock. I can't believe this has happened. And Faith asks me, and she talks about Sebastian, and she asks me, Mama, are they gonna find him? And I tell her, yeah. I've talked to Seth on a parent-to-parent level. And we talked about some things that, we shed some tears together, and just the pain in his voice. It hurts. But I feel like people now want to listen to me. People now want to hear my voice when I've been saying the hurtful things that were done to my children and to myself. Nobody wanted to listen to me before. And now that this baby is missing, you want to listen to me now? You want to ask me questions now? Like I just feel helpless. Like I don't know what to even think anymore. I see all these things that are being said, and the things that people say, and they have every right to say that. They have every right to speculate. Just like I have. There's so many things that I've thought about in my head, but I've saw the things. I've sat back for a month literally and watched everything and followed every possible thing that I can, listened to what people have said, podcasts, like everything. And I needed for my voice and my story to be heard of my experiences with the Proudfoots and Christopher and Katie. Katie jumped on that bandwagon or that Christopher and everybody else was on. Just like this past December 27th, Faith was going out to Hendersonville to see her family for the holidays. We drove her to the airport. We were all happy. We all got out. Isabella, Noah, Wayne, myself, got her out of the truck and we said our goodbyes. We hugged her. We kissed her. There's Katie standing there recording everything like she always does.
Katie, here we go, recording like she always
and I
does.
hug my baby tight. I tell her I love her. And we prayed. We asked God to keep Faith safe and bring her home safe to us. So as she went with Katie, I had somebody that Christopher, Katie, and his lawyer hired. His name is Michael Tinker.
Michael Tinker.
He served me with paper. And he tapped on my window when I just rolled it down. And he said, "Are you so-and-so Gomez?" I said, "Yes." "Why?" He said, "Because you've been served." And the first thing I thought of was, they're going to take Faith. I got out of that truck so fast and I ran into the airport. And I was yelling through the airport that she was going to kidnap Faith. Katie and Faith were standing at the Southwest counter. And I told them, I said, she's going to kidnap my baby. I grabbed Faith on the left side of her hand and I ran with her through the airport. And all I could think about is, I got to get back to the truck. And here comes Wayne, Noah, and Isabel running through the airport just to come and see what was happening. And oh my God, my mom, like first thing she thought of was like, and Wayne thought was like, oh my God, Nina's going to just lay her out. I ran by, and Katie was coming right up behind me, and the guy, Michael Tinker, he stood there trying to flag me down and still trying to serve me with paperwork. In that moment, I'm just thinking about, they're going to take my baby and I'm never going to see her again. So I got to the truck. I called APD. During the holiday season, APD is at the airport. So they came within like 5 minutes. Officer Cordova had showed up and was talking about asking questions like what was happening and asked if I had a parenting plan on hand. And I'm like, wait, I mean, when I was just supposed to carry my parenting plan? I mean, and he said, was it his time sharing or yours? And I said, it's his. But I said, why am I being served? And still at this point, Michael Tinker was still trying to give me my paperwork and I wouldn't take it. So he got very upset, lifted up the windshield wipers and threw the paperwork right under there.
Wow. These people all need anger
At this
management.
point, my kids are crying. I'm crying hysterically. And there's Katie smiling away and recording everything. And then the officer's like, Ms. Gomez, you have a court date coming up. And if you don't want the judge to be upset with you, you need to let her go. So I get back out of the truck. We all do. And I get down to Faith's level. And I tell her how much I love her.
Welcome, Lanazi.
And that mommy's gonna always keep fighting for you.
Damn.
And don't ever for 1 second think that mommy does not love you.
Mm.
I hug her so tight. Because I don't know if that's the last time I was going to see my baby. I handed her off to Katie. And she left. I could barely breathe when I got back in the truck. Trying
I think a protective order.
to think about, what do I do now? What do I do if she doesn't come home? How am I going to get her home? Faith stopped. And she looked at the truck driving away, and Wayne looked back, and she probably thought, is that the last time I'm going to see my family?
Oh my God.
No.
Oh my God. Hold on. Something just clicked. Mama Proudfoot was on Facebook looking for a stroller in October. She was on Facebook. She wanted but Faith is too old for a stroller car seat combo though.
All day, my whole world was turned upside down. I thought about everything that played in my head like a movie. That day was hard. I came home and I crawled up in a ball. I didn't want nobody to bother me because I'm thinking about how am I going to have enough money to get a lawyer or anything like that. So what they did was they hired that server to come and serve me with a court hearing that I already knew about. The one that was going to take place January 2nd.
These dates are important. January 2nd.
So Christopher's lawyer, Christopher, Katie, they all knew what they were doing. They premeditated this again. They wanted me to go crazy. They wanted me to say hurtful things so they can go back to the courthouse and to the judge and say that I was unstable, that I'm mentally, something's wrong. And that's what they did. Christopher and Katie and his attorney asked that I get evaluated by a psychiatric doctor.
Thank you. Love you, Flo. Y'all, we're spinning the wheel Friday. Flobo just took us over that limit.
Because I ran through the airport saying that she was gonna kidnap her.
Oh my God.
But in my mind,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt her with that. Thank you so much, Flo. She did just take us over the edge. We're gonna spin the wheel Friday, but I did just miss that part.
But in my mind, I've been traumatized by Mr. Proudfoot and his family. And I brought back trauma. And now, I mean, we're at this point where poor Sebastian is missing. and everybody, the judge and, other people are telling me, don't talk about this issue in front of Faith. She's too young. She's traumatized. Christopher doesn't talk about that to her. He doesn't tell her that her stepbrother is missing. Not once has he said anything to her about it. I think Faith needs to be aware of what's happening. She did talk to Sebastian when she had FaceTimed Chris and he was at his house. She knows him. I really don't know what to say at this point. Like with Sebastian missing and the situation with Faith, it's been an ongoing situation. I was unaware that Sebastian's father was getting him. I was unaware that he was going to live with his father permanently. Finally, that was disclosed to me about a week and a half ago. I was in shock because I went like, how can you know that you're getting your child for full custody? Like, I mean, you and Katie were preparing for this. You're giving away one kid to get another one. Like, I never understood that. I still don't understand that. I was in shock when I heard that. And I also, it's sickening to think that, and to think that you would be getting a child. Why would you take Faith away from everything that she knows? Her mom, her siblings. She calls Wayne dad. She says, that's my daddy Wayne. Her grandparents, like everything. I don't, I was lost, and now the more and more I find out, it just makes my stomach turn even more. Like, going back to this court hearing that we had, we never got an extension on the restraining order. But I believe that we should have. I did, because I don't know what Christopher nor Katie or the Proudfoots are capable of doing. It's, for all I know, they could
Who's Wayne?
Take Faith from school. I do right now have temporary full custody of Faith till we go back to court.
Which is the 9th.
I mean, I talked to Seth, and I've always told him, I reach out to him and I let him know, we're here, whatever you need, let us know how we can help you. But I remember him telling me the first night that I reached out to him, or he reached out to me, and he said, you can help Sebastian, and you can help me by keeping Faith there and keeping her safe. When you hear that from another parent and the situation that's going on, what do you say? Like, I'm doing the best that I can, but it's the justice system here. My biggest fear is that somebody's going to make the wrong decision for Faith and she goes out there. And what am I going to do? What if something like this happens to my baby? Are you going to tell me I'm sorry, Miss Gomez? I made the wrong decision?
She's worried they're going to reverse this shit.
The justice system has failed a lot of kids, has failed my kids, and it also fails Sebastian. I've been fighting this since Faith was a newborn, and I'm still fighting it. I don't know what it's going to take.
6 years of this for her.
I don't really think anybody really cares the decisions that they make for children, because it's not happening in their personal family. They don't know somebody. It doesn't hit home. It'll never happen to them. A lot of these people always tell me.
Anyone that Chris Proudfoot doesn't like, I think I would automatically like. Delana, thank you. Thanks for replaying 100% important. Sebastian Strong. Rev Gang. Hashtag find Sebastian. This is heartbreaking. Thank you so much, Delana. Appreciate you. I don't think she's going to be let down. I mean, y'all, we need to like somehow support this girl. I feel so bad.
Don't show your feelings in court. Don't be emotional. So I'm just supposed to sit there without feelings, without crying, without telling people how I really feel. I feel like a lot of these also, because there wasn't enough creamer in their coffee for, a lot of these judges that make these decisions, and maybe they got angry that morning or whatever the circumstances are. They make bad choices for a lot of these children. And I won't let Faith be one of them. I will always fight for Faith, like I have been. I wish people would open up their eyes and listen to when people are saying it's not a good idea. I don't think they're stable. I don't think that they're a healthy parent.
Jules, are you serious right now? Are you serious right now? I do wish she would have pulled herself together somewhat during this video. CP could paint her as unstable animation. After all the shit he's done while his stepson's missing, you think that Nina needs to pull herself together? Huh? I'm confused about that.
Because look at what happened to Sebastian. And I feel for him because I'm a mom of a 15-year-old daughter.
Faith and Sebastian are the same age.
I hope, and we pray every single day for his safe return. If there's anything that I would say to everybody is look out for one another, look out for your kids.
Thank you, Lady D. Sorry you went
And
through
no
that.
relationship is worth your children's relationship at all.
No, put your kids first.
At all.
Kids come first.
So I believe I had to tell my story so it can get out there, because it still haunts me to this day. It haunts my children. It haunts our everyday life. We don't live a normal life. We are always living on the edge because of Mr. Proudfoot. I mean, his mother wanted to pay off the daycare, buy them some new playground equipment, just so Christopher and his mom can stay there longer to see Faith. I mean, I'm sure, my mind is all foggy right now because thinking about everything that I've went through, I'm sure I left some bits and pieces out. But I know what I've experienced, and it wasn't a good experience at all whatsoever. So that's our story.
That's it, guys. That's her story. Wow. And it was a lot the first time. It was a lot the second time. But I picked up a lot we didn't get the first time. But I do want to show you guys this update. I'm going to be watching this really closely. And not because I want this to be anything to do with Sebastian's case. But it's really close to the Yogi Bear Horn Lake campground, and I want to show you guys. So this is the latest, the most information I found, rather. This was published yesterday. Flowood Police Detective Sean Haddican told the Clarion Ledger more human remains were discovered by police Monday in a Rankin County pond, the day after a leg was found. Haddican said authorities recovered skeletal remains of a skull during a Monday morning search of a pond near Mangum Road. According to Haddican, the investigation began when the Flowood Police Department received a call around 7:15 p.m. Sunday from fishermen about an object that appeared to be a human leg in the pond. Haddican confirmed to the Clarion Ledger the leg was the lower portion of a leg, bone, and foot. The, quote, badly decomposed human leg reportedly still had a sock on it. The Rankin County coroner took possession of the partial remains, and the case remains under investigation. So, yeah, and let's go back. If you guys missed it, let's go back to YouTube. This was awesome to see. And then we're going to go over. Actually, we're going to have to do that another live. We've got a lot of Madeline Soto new information as well. But let's go back to Nancy Grace and let's watch this clip again. And just so you know, if you are a member of the channel, we're going to be watching this whole episode tonight live in Discord. Because this is just a little snippet because him and Tony are going to be on the actual show tonight.
On national TV and asked him, would he be willing to take a polygraph? He said yes. He did take a polygraph. Straight back out to Seth Rogers. Joining us is Sebastian's father. And now joining us is a renowned polygrapher, Kendall Schewel, former head of the entire FBI Polygraph program in D.C., former special agent with the FBI in D.C. He is at Kendall Investigations. Also joining us, Tony Mathis, who is helping Seth Rogers as he walks this very, very rocky path. First of all, let me just get this out of the way. This is a yes/no, Kendall Schewel. Did Seth Rogers pass his polygraph?
Yes, he did.
Okay, Seth Rogers, tell me about going and taking the polygraph. We want to hear every single word because I've got a stack of nasty online posts about you failing, about you not going, blah, blah, blah. A lot of trolls chiming in. Let's get to the truth of that polygraph. Seth, what happened?
I showed up early for the polygraph. Mr. Kendall contacted me and told me that he'd be there well before the time that we had stated. So I showed up and I sat in the chair and let him attach those things to me and took the polygraph.
DC.
Have you ever had a polygraph before?
No, ma'am.
And what kind of questions did the polygrapher Kendall Schewel ask you?
If I had ever wanted to harm anybody, if I ever wanted to hurt my son, if I'd ever hurt my son, if I'd ever had anything to do with his disappearance.
Question. You said they hooked you up. What do you mean by that, Seth Rogers?
They put things on my hands. They wrapped cords around me. They had a blood pressure cuff on me to measure my blood pressure and measure my heart rate, my breathing rate, things like that.
How long did it take?
It took a minute.
It took 60 seconds. Could you be precise or more precise? How long do you think it took?
We were there for 3 hours, 4 hours.
That's about right. It's not easy. Okay, sit tight, Seth. And again, thank you for being with us. Out to Kendall Schewel, as I told you, former head of the entire FBI polygraph program in D.C. Kendall, thank you. When we put out the word that Seth Rogers would take a polygraph, we contacted you because of your reputation. You quickly agreed, and I thank you for that.
Exactly,
Again, this
Sin.
was not free. He was paid to do the polygraph. He owes nothing to anybody, and therefore was not swayed one way or the other. He had never met Seth Rogers before in his life. Mr. Schewel, I've looked very carefully at your polygraph report right here. Number one, you start off by saying it was conducted using a comparison question format that meets U.S. government standards. What is a comparison question format? What is that?
It's a format that's well accepted by the polygraph community, particularly the American Polygraph Association. There are certain formats that we can use that are more acceptable, that we know are more reliable, and this was one of those. Certainly a test format that I would want to use to make sure we're doing everything right to get the correct results. And this is again a format, a polygraph that is widely accepted as a standard in the FBI world and in the polygraph world in general.
This is what you came here for. Everybody wants something they want.
What the fuck? So that's it. It's official, guys. It is official. He passed. And I know that a lot of you guys are like, oh, well, I never doubted him for a minute. I did. I did for a minute. But then it became crystal clear this week. I come back and say hi to y'all. I feel so bad for them too. So CP said, name the time, name the place. Name the time, name the place. Let me show you guys this. I feel like there's new video out on Madeline as well. I'm going to have to, when I get off here, do some digging. But I wanted to share something first. The missing persons report from Madeline. And I will do another video on this. I just wanted to show you guys really fast. There's not really anything new in this report. Except for, let's look at it. I haven't really looked at it that closely. I skimmed it on my phone. So let's take a look at what they sent me. So yeah, May 9th at 8:30 in the morning, which I think they're like 3 hours behind us on the East Coast. Thank you, Crazy Bunch. I'm glad you're here. It's just crazy, though, that when that picture came out, Proudfoot was like, it's not him. And then that ends up being correct. All right. Here is the incident report. Requested from the Orange County Sheriff. So it says here, Orange County Sheriff originated at 1643 was when the first call came in to 1:30 3550 Village Park Drive, number 125. So then we have we have Stearns, Jennifer, and Madeline listed on here. Thank you. I just got a PayPal notification. Thank you, guys. Let's see. Who dat from? Who dat be? Kristen, thank you so much, sweetheart. That was so nice of you. Thank you, Kristen. Shuddy. So then we've got the 3 people listed, all 3 of them. Here's the narrative. I'll read through this. Hold up a second. Dude, my eyes are getting bad. These aren't cutting it anymore. Okay. All right, let's do this. So the narrative says, on February 26th, 2023, and isn't that weird? The same day as Sebastian. Isn't that weird? Sarah, thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. At approximately 1948 hours, I, Deputy Joseph, responded to 13550 Village Park Drive, Orlando, Orange County, Florida, regarding a missing juvenile. While on the scene, the step-parent stated he dropped his daughter off at school, and when the mother went to the school, the daughter was not there. The parents searched within the neighborhood and places where the daughter may have gone. The parents could provide a location where the daughter may have been, but yielded negative results when deputies checked the area. The juvenile was entered in the FCIC, NCIC, and EMER resource as missing disabled. When I arrived on the scene, I spoke with the mother, Jennifer Lisette Soto, who gave me verbal and sworn written testimony. On February 26, 2023, at approximately 8 o'clock, Jennifer observed missing Madeline Soto getting dressed for school. Stepfather, Stephen Stearns, took Madeline. Why would he introduce himself as that? Took Madeline to school, dropping her off near the intersection of Town Loop Boulevard and Hunters Park Lane at approximately 8:30. Jennifer went to Hunters Creek Middle in an attempt to pick up Madeline at approximately 1600 hours. When she discovered Madeline did not make it to school. In an effort to find Madeline, Jennifer looked through the neighborhoods near Madeline's school and went to her mother's business office located at 13550 Village Park Drive. So that's her mom's work. I later spoke with Stephen Stern, who stated in a verbal and sworn written statement the following. At approximately 8:25 to 8:40, Stephen dropped Madeline off approximately 1 block away from her school. So we still don't get where he got her from. Like, where did he pick her up from? Was he there? Was he somewhere else and then picked her up? Did she stay with him after the party? All that is still left out. He watched Madeline leave his vehicle and walk towards the direction of her school. As Stephen was driving away, he could see what appeared to be Madeline searching through her book bag. He did not think anything of it due to Madeline usually looked through her bag to find headphones so she could put them in before school. But she didn't have her phone. Stephen began heading home when he attempted to stop for a vape juice at a nearby vape shop, but determined it was closed. So Stephen went home to Kissimmee. Once Stephen was home for about an hour, he went back out to retrieve a vape juice and then run errands. Stephen stated he returned home and stayed home at approximately 14:30 hours. While on the scene, I had Deputy Diaz go to 5244 Los Palmas Vista Drive, the grandmother's home, due to the close proximity to both the school and the grandmother's business that Madeline would frequently visit. Deputy Mooney was able to establish an attempt to contact 4012 Santa Maria Drive to see if Madeline made her way back to her mother's home. Both addresses yielded negative results. So no one was even home at the grandma's house or at Soto's house. What? Jennifer was able to provide me with a phone number of Madeline's best friend, Sage Ellis. Oh my God, they doxed the fucking kid. Get past that. I then requested Stefan to take me to the location he dropped Madeline off in an effort to canvass the area and recover any evidence. As I canvassed the area on foot, I was able to locate a camera blank in the Urbana apartment complex and active cameras at Peace Church. Deputy Rodriguez was able to make contact with a worker from the Peace Church who was able to allow me to view playback footage from 2/26/24. With my body-worn camera activated, I was able to see what appeared to be a juvenile enter the property from Town Loop Boulevard at approximately 8:40 hours and sit on the ground in the parking lot and get up and leave the property towards Town Loop Boulevard at approximately 8:58. Who was that? What? A juvenile entered the property from Town Loop Boulevard at 8:40 and sat on the ground until 8:58. Was that some other kid? Weird. After reviewing the videos, I made contact with Jennifer and Stefan one last time for the night in an effort to get an article of clothing that has a large scent on it. The K-9 unit met me at 4012 Santa Maria Drive to verify the clothing had not been contaminated. Once the clothing was verified, the K-9 unit and I went back to the last known location Madeline was seen and began a track. The track yielded negative results. It should be noted that Jennifer stated that Madeline is diagnosed with autism and ADHD and takes Adderall. Madeline is 5'1", approximately 110, with blue eyes, white skin, and blonde hair. Madeline was last seen wearing a green hoodie, black shorts, and white Crocs. And they all had body-worn camera. So there's more for me to get. I just haven't been able to go through it yet. And the reason we see this is because Florida has sunshine statutes. So once they start the discovery process in Florida, we usually start seeing stuff unsealed. So, all right, guys, thanks for helping us. We reached the wheel, even though the red is not filled in. I haven't updated it, but we did reach our goals. So this Friday, we will be doing the Wheel of Friday, where I give away fun prizes and give back to you. So thank you so much. We will stay on top of any updates. And in the meantime, you guys all stay safe. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We definitely have a night stream tomorrow. And I'm thinking we might need to go over another Proudfoot video. The one where I told him to go to bed and he did.
You want a cough drop?
Tonight in Discord, I have it set for 9 p.m. Eastern. So I think it's supposed to be on at 9:30, but I'll be in there at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight in Discord for Nancy. Thank you, mods. Thank you, members. Thank you for all your support that you have given. Hit that like button. Oops. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I love you all. Thanks.
Everybody does that. It's okay.
About you and your problems, I don't give a damn. You talk way too much, I have heard enough. About you and your problems, I don't give a damn.
I didn't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life, and I didn't want to see anybody else either.
You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to
Why you by yourself?
Face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that. Sit down, about Cadillacs. Buy new shoes, hanging by the pool, sipping on Coke and Jack.
I don't want Jennifer or two Jennifers.
Jennifer loves horses.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Bye, Jennifer.
I've been through the desert on a horse.